Well, Donald Trump may have wanted to co-opt Russia for containing China, but the continued sanctions on Russia have only pushed it closer to China. And in a double blow for Washington, its trade war with Beijing has further brought Russia and China closer as they seek to forge deeper economic ties. Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping met in Moscow to decide, among other things, how to defang America's chosen weapon, the dollar. Looks like they're dumping it. Here's a report.
From pancake diplomacy last year to panda diplomacy this year. By the time the Putin-Xi talks concluded in Moscow, China and Russia had taken another step closer towards dumping the dollar and agreed to trade in their respective national currencies, the Russian ruble and the Chinese yuan. Clearly, Moscow and Beijing have signaled their intent to move away from the US dollar in a bid to clip Washington's dominance over the international system. Russia and China want to restrict Washington's bullying of other countries. The US is known to threaten countries with sanctions if they do not comply with its wishes. Russia and China intend to develop the practice of settlements in national currencies, Putin said after his talks with Xi. China and Russia agreed to promote the use of the yuan and the ruble in bilateral trade. The bilateral pact talks about cooperation on development of national payment systems and facilitation of cross-border payments in national and other currencies. Xi Jinping presented 2 pandas to Moscow's zoo at the ceremony with Vladimir Putin on Wednesday in a gesture the Russian president described as a sign of deepening trust and respect between the two powers. The meeting, Xi and Putin signed the statements on elevating bilateral ties to the comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination for a new era and on strengthening contemporary global strategic stability. According to the joint statement on the strategic partnership, the China-Russia relationship has entered a new era and is facing new opportunities for greater development. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
The third world is not poor. You don't go to poor countries to make money. There are very few poor countries in this world. Most countries are rich. The Philippines are rich. Brazil is rich. Mexico is rich. Chile is rich. Only the people are poor. But there's billions to be made there, to be carved out and to be taken. There's been billions for 400 years. The capitalist European and North American powers have carved out and taken the timber, the flax, the hemp, the cocoa, the rum, the tin, the copper, the iron, the rubber, the bauxite, the slaves, and the cheap labor. They have taken out of these countries. These countries are not underdeveloped, they're overexploited.
Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, highest honors to Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, Hashem Rakakadash, double honors to the Apostle Elders, Great Millstone, and rule well. Salutations to you brothers that preach, teach, and prophesy His word in truth and sincerity. It's Brother Ariaga from the Grand Rapids, Michigan camp, here with another interesting lesson. All right, and as you see, China and Russia have dropped the American dollar. Okay? And I'm pretty sure the rest of the BRICS nations, which is made up of Brazil, Russia, India, and China, will do the same. Okay? Definitely follow in pursuit. So what you see is a gradual breakdown of this system. And by them doing that, because China is basically the biggest supplier of goods to the U.S., U.S. being a consumer nation primarily, they don't really import anything with soybean and maybe a couple of other items, but for the vast majority of the part, America is a consumer nation. That's why you see Israel is represented so much. Don't care who they destroy, as long as, you know, they have their ally America backing them. Okay, they're confident in their ability to stand on whatever decisions that they make, even if it's an international war crime, because that is they're basically running their system off just American democracy or democratic system, and that's the biggest welfare case in the world. Israel is okay. So now that China is doing this, I looked up how China and Russia basically. I looked at how China and Russia influence the U.S. dollar. China directly affects the U.S. dollar by loosely pegging the value of its currency. It says the ren minbai to the dollar. China's central bank uses a modified version of traditional fixed exchange rate that differs from the floating exchange rate the U.S. states and many others use. So what they do is whoever they're doing business with, they basically match, like I said, a modified version of the traditional fixed exchange rate. All right, they have a traditional method of exchanging with another country. What they do is they basically, instead of it being floating around and it's constantly unstable like the dollar, depending on who or basically what country they're doing business with, they basically match that exchange rate with that country. You know, that's how the yuan works. Okay. The people, the People's Bank of China. The People's Bank of China manages the yuan value. It keeps it fixed to a basket of currencies, reflecting its trading partners. All right, so it keeps it to a fixed degree in which it can reflect its trading partners. Okay, they're already sending massive amounts of trade money with the ruble and the yuan going back and forth between Russia and China. You familiar with the Chinese Silk Road? Okay, and they're basically establishing um, basically a system outside of the central banks of the United States, which devalues the dollar even further. Because right now, America is in an economic decline. That's why they've been using so much money to stimulate the American economy due to the lack of jobs and, you know, trying to basically bounce back after the whole shutdown and what have you. And so now this puts us in the area of hyperinflation because everything you have, vast majority of the things that you have, are made in China. Okay? And what they can do is basically, well, what they have done is by dropping the dollar, any of the trade goods we get from them comes at a higher toll. All right? And it leads these individuals to basically, or America basically has to change its currency because the rest of these nations are going to start following in pursuit of it. Now we get into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, these different things, and what they're trying to do now, because that's supposed to be basically a free trading market. Matter of fact, I got an article for that. Hold up. All right, so it says El Salvador makes Bitcoin legal tender, and allegedly, you know, the help that the United States government or the Reserve Bank, allegedly doesn't have a hand in Bitcoin. So it's supposed to be this free market of currency and trade that the other nations, including this one, are benefiting off of. Right? That's why they try to send all these different waves through the system by having Elon Musk, you know, stop accepting Bitcoin for his trucks and car Teslas and what have you, which dropped it down by 30%, dropped the stock market down on Bitcoin by 30%, which is a fluctuating market. So what the U.S. is slowly but surely trying to do is ease its way into this blockchain business. Okay, um, excuse me, and really America, the government itself established the blockchain business. Now during it, I think that happened. I forgot. I think it was early 2000s, something or another. But they basically set up the blockchain itself. They established it, and by establishing it, they have the ability later on to come back and reclaim it. Okay. So what they're doing is milking the U.S. dollar or the petrodollar, a fiat currency, fake money. They're basically using that until its value is completely depleted, and then they'll switch over to this digital currency. Um, but as you can see, El Salvador makes Bitcoin legal tender. El Salvador's legislative assembly has approved legislation making the cryptocurrency Bitcoin legal tender in the country. The first country to do so. Very first country to make that happen. I mean, here we go. And it's going to be a trend, a continuous trend that's caught on to, because you can use cryptocurrency in most countries, okay? Whether it be Bitcoin or whatever have you, you can use it in other countries. And as you use it in other countries, then you start seeing the market start becoming more open and acceptable to this form of trade. And as they do so, and they're starting to see that, hey, this is working a whole lot better. The exchange rate is a whole lot better. You're starting to see these nations drop the dollar one by one. So there's only so much that they can do. El Salvador's Legislative Assembly has approved legislation making the cryptocurrency Bitcoin legal tender in the country, the first nation to do so, just days after President Nayib Bukele made the proposal at a Bitcoin conference. All right, the digital currency originally created to be money out of the control of governments can be used in any transaction. Any business will have to accept payment in Bitcoin, with the exception of those lacking the technology to do so. The U.S. dollar will also continue to be El Salvador's currency, and no one will be forced to pay in Bitcoin, according to the legislation approved late Tuesday. And that's how they start, okay? Because it goes all the way down to other countries adopting the same behavior, because it says it's going to continue to be El Salvador's currency, and no one will be forced to pay in Bitcoin. But as you start seeing that dollar destabilize, that digital electronic currency will become the number one source. Because what these countries are trying to do as the new world order moves in is completely get rid of the paper currency in general. Because you still got to pay money to manufacture dollars, coins, all right? And it causes inflation if you overdo it. But when you're able to digitally make money out of thin air, what cost is it to you? These are the times that we are coming into. All right, that digital currency is about to be a monster out here. And please believe these other countries are going to follow in pursuit. All right. All right. So what I was saying in general, like for instance, Israel being the world's largest um, welfare case, right? Looking for an extra couple $billion from the U.S. Um, that's basically what they use to sustain to sustain, their finances and everything they do in general is by by the hand of the U.S. And a lot of people in America, rightfully so, are pissed off about it. Because you got your own legal problems, economical problems here in the U.S. And you sending billions and billions of dollars overseas to a country that doesn't produce anything. Of course, man, they got issues with that, and rightfully so. It's like somebody living in a house and the rent is past due, and it's only getting worse. But they got money; they just sending it to somebody else to pay their own rent and live in a luxurious house. Ecclesiasticus 10:8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Right? And that you see that in general, on riches got by deceit. That's why, excuse me, that's why I played that video. Because there are no weak poor nations. It's just the citizens of these nations are poor because you have nations that are European or American, or hell, even Russia for that matter, nations that put these other nations under subjection to them, and they force them to mine their own resources. They basically take the puppet government, they put a puppet leader at the top of it, gives them a bunch of wealth, and they make the people grindingly poor and force them to mine the resources and send it back to the host country or to the host parasitic nation. And you see that often. And these are just, look, it says unrighteous dealing. That's an unrighteous thing. Unjust balances and weights is an unrighteous thing to the Heavenly Father. Because you're supposed to have balance in everything that you do, especially in your currencies. Okay? It says injuries and riches got by deceit. And how did they do that? They make these different pacts with these nations and promises and treaties with them and turn around and break them. And if that host nation has a problem, then they'll threaten them with their military. All right? And just that alone, because us being in captivity in this nation or in these respective nations that the Heavenly Father has placed us in that's affected by this, hey, the kingdom has to be translated from one people to another. And that people is the Lord's elected people, which is you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Natives, better known as the true 12 tribes of Israel. He's going to put these nations into the hands of the righteous. All right, sorry about that. Let's continue. Ecclesiasticus 10, and we'll start at 21. The fear of the Lord goeth before the obtaining of authority, but the righteous, but the roughness and pride is the losing thereof. This is a very rough kingdom. They have a very rough history, from chattel slavery to the way they stole this country from the natives, and the Mexicans, and hey, they got a rough history. And one of the things that India, starting with Russia, China, and India, have been poking at them with, about, what I'm saying? Those BRIC nations have been putting them on blast and reminding them of their, bloody history. Okay? They've been doing that all in the news lately. Like, because all these nations are getting fed up. 22, whether he be rich, noble, or poor, their glory is the fear of Yahweh. Better is he, 20, and right, whether he be rich, noble, or poor, the glory is in the fear of the Most High. Excuse me. And they used to push that whole ideal. I think that was 1983. It was the year of the Bible. They used to push those whole vibration that this is a God-fearing country, but you look at the money now. All right, they took that God we trust off the bills. What is it? Used to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Used to say that God we trust. They took that out of that, and these were all gradually. So they stood on that and it flourished even under that guise. But now and completely falling because they just completely going left. 27th verse. Better is he that laboreth and aboundeth in all things, and he that boasteth himself and wanteth bread. And this country is always, we're gonna make America great again. We're gonna do this and that and all of the third and shit. And we're gonna do all of this crazy stuff. You know, that's their whole image. When really, this place is plummeting. You know, we'll be in hyperinflation maybe before the summer even goes out. So you know, we'll wait to see. But understand that it's coming. It's most likely going to hit before this year is over with. All right. But like I said, we'll see whatever the Lord want to do. Ecclesiasticus 11 and 18. There is that waxeth rich by his weariness and pinching, and this is the portion of his reward. Whereas he saith, I have found rest, and now will eat continually of my goods. And yet he knoweth not what time shall come upon him, and that he must leave those things to others and die. Alright? So this, hey, you see a lot of times with these different countries, these different companies, they'll have a good product, and then after years of being on top or pushing out this good product, like for instance, we like Everfresh juice, and they used to have 100% juice for their pineapple juice. Drinking it for years, and one day we come in and it just says pineapple juice on it. We don't know 100% juice. And I'm reading the back of it. It say high fructose corn syrup and all this crazy shit, yellow 5 and shit. Yeah, you know, that's how they do. Just to save an extra 25 cents or 50 cents or 70 cents on each bottle, that adds up to millions in the pockets of those that are the head of these corporations or primary investors, you know. And that's what you see because this is a corporation. The United States is a corporation. It's not, you know, it's not a country. It's a corporation. It's not a country of the people. All right. That's why you have a president, a council, a board. You know, this is a corporation. It's like Pepsi and Coca-Cola. The United States, all right, is a brand. All right, and they think that they're gonna basically sit back and rest and enjoy this. It says, it says, and that he must leave those things to others and die. You know, because when that time comes, they think they're gonna be able to enjoy this new world order, and the Heavenly Father's gonna put this place underneath the dust. You know, brimstone and fire, and that whole ordeal when the Lord returns. It's gonna be a great destruction. You know, they're going to be in the midst of their kingdom enjoying it, and boom, think, oh, got this one world order kicking off and shit, got the mark pumping and wars and shit, and then, hey, so-called black man gonna crack open them skies and be all in your ass with the angels coming with a multitude of fiery chariots. Let's go. These are the times we coming into. Ecclesiasticus 21 and 4. The terrifying do wrong will waste riches. Thus the house of proud men shall be made desolate. And that's what this country is known for. Their military, and they flex their military might and terrify other nations. Like, hey, if you don't do this or that or comply, we're gonna bomb your ass to shit. And ain't nobody else gonna do a damn thing about it. So it's that get down or lay down mentality that this country perpetuates, you know? And that's why, yeah, like I said, thus the house of proud men shall be made desolate. And nobody's prouder than the so-called white man. Esau Edom. That's the proudest motherfucker on this planet, easily. Okay? 2nd Ezra 16 and 72. But they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. So as the system continues to translate over, it's going to get worse from one people into another. it's going to get worse in the hands of the oppressor that has it now. And as it transfers over, you're going to see them make these different things mandatory. The mark, all of these things, RFID microchip, and all of these things going to be mandatory and needed in this place to buy or sell or to do any form of trade, according to Revelation 13 and 16. So these things are going to come about, and you're going to have to make a choice. Whether you got government aid, government funds, government housing, you're going to have to make a choice. Hey, they're going to kick you out and persecute you, or you can get these things and you can keep on getting these benefits, man. You know? And then you're going to know who's the Lord's chosen by who endure that. Get kicked out, taken everything taken from you, and yet you still worshiping and praising his name, heavily persecuted, and yet you still praising the Heavenly Father in his Son's name. You know? That name is necessary. They shall be tried as gold in the fire, because fire refines. So what it does is you melt down the gold and or the silver or the precious metal to get all these other less desired minerals and metals out of it, so you can make it pure. And they call it dross, you know. So that's what this does. This hell purifies us, and it's going to purify us and make you whole. It's going, because it's going to require a massive amount of faith to get to these times that we going into. Hear, O ye beloved, saith Yahweh. Behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. And who is that deliverance coming to? His elect, man. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's his elect. All right, of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Natives, and to those spreads to the four corners of the globe that may look like the respective countries that they are in captivity in, or are in at this current time. All four corners of the globe, you Native American, Latinos, and Negroes, known through your spirit and your DNA that the Heavenly Father has given you, hey, the elect of them will be risen up, man. And they will be delivered from the same, delivered from these times to come. All right, so we're going to keep it like that. I pray you were edified. Just pay attention. Look at how these prices are starting to rise. Look at this hyperinflation around the corner. Get ready, man, because it's about to happen. We all will be tested. So stay vigilant until the next time. Shalom.